All right, let's talk about a role you've probably heard of, the Medical Science Liaison, or MSL. But what does someone in that job actually do all day? In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and look at the science, the strategy, and, the real day-to-day of this unique career. Let's dive in.
And just so you know where this is all coming from, everything we're about to cover is based on the real-world insights and experiences of Savannah Parker, who's a practicing MSL. So this isn't just theory from a textbook, it's a genuine inside look from someone who lives and breathes this role.
So that brings us right to the big question. What does a medical science liaison really do? As you're about to see, it's this fascinating mix of hardcore science, strategic relationship building, and some serious business smarts. Let's start breaking it down. First things first, let's talk about the foundation. At the absolute core, an MSL is a scientific expert. And I'm not kidding. This isn't just, one part of the job. It is the bedrock that absolutely everything else is built on. Okay, so here's the more formal definition. An MSL is an expert who's out in the field, not in an office. And we're talking about people with serious credentials like a PharmD, a PhD, or an MD. Now, what's really crucial to understand is they work in a department called Medical Affairs, which is a completely separate world from sales and marketing. Their entire job is to have these purely scientific, peer-to-peer conversations with the top physicians and researchers in a specific field. And we call these experts key opinion leaders, or KOLs for short. But, just having all that scientific expertise, that's only half of it. How do you actually use it? Well, the answer gets into the real core function of the job, building and taking care of genuine scientific relationships. And this whole process is really a continuous cycle. See, an MSL gets a specific geographic territory. The first step is to figure out who the key experts are in that area. But then the real work begins, building authentic, peer-to-peer trust. Because only when you have that trust can you have a truly meaningful scientific discussion, which, down the road, might lead to cool collaborations like new clinical trials. But it all starts with that trusted relationship. And to keep that trust, to even have those peer-level conversations, an MSL has to be completely, relentlessly on top of their game. I mean, KOLs are the leaders in their fields, right? They expect you to be just as plugged in on the absolute latest data, trials, and publications. This is not a job where you learn something once and you're done. It's a career of constant, proactive learning. A huge part of staying current and connecting with these KOLs is going to scientific conferences. And they really come in two flavors. You've got your local or regional meetings, which are smaller, a lot more intimate. They're perfect for having those natural face-to-face conversations with the experts right in your own territory. And then you've got national conferences. These things are massive, high-energy events that take months of strategic planning and usually feel like a whirlwind of back-to-back meetings. So we've established an MSL is a scientific expert who builds relationships. But there's this third, incredibly critical layer to the role, one that has a direct line to company strategy. And this is the art of gathering insights. You could argue that this is the most vital and definitely the most hidden part of the job. It's the piece that really elevates the MSL from being just a scientific resource to becoming a true strategic partner for their company. So what is that function? It's gathering what we call field insights. Now, an insight isn't just your meeting notes, no. It's actionable intelligence. It's that subtle thing you pick up on when a top doctor voices a concern about a clinical trial's endpoint, or when they start describing a specific unmet need that their patients are facing every day. This is the kind of real-world feedback that the internal teams back at headquarters would never get to hear otherwise. And the impact of these insights? It's huge. They don't just get filed away somewhere to collect dust. They're actively collected and analyzed to directly shape medical strategy, influence plans for future publications, and even help design new clinical trials. And that's exactly why documenting these conversations accurately and on time is, well, it's absolutely non-negotiable. Okay, so to make all of this high-level scientific and strategic work actually happen, there's this powerful and often totally unseen operational engine running in the background. So let's get real and look at the practical side of the job. While the job is absolutely packed with rewarding scientific discussions, it also comes with a pretty significant administrative side. MSLs are basically the CEOs of their own territory. They're responsible for booking all their own travel, submitting expense reports on time, managing their company car, and, like we just talked about, meticulously documenting every single KOL interaction, all while hitting some very strict deadlines. But it is so important to see these tasks not just as chores. Think of them as the foundation of the entire role. Handling this administrative side with real discipline and integrity is precisely what earns an MSL the professional autonomy and the trust that makes this career so unique in the first place. And that brings us to travel, probably one of the biggest, most defining parts of the job. The appeal is pretty obvious. You get incredible autonomy and flexibility to design your own schedule. The challenge, of course, is that the travel can be a lot. And that means a significant amount of time away from home. It's a lifestyle that can be really energizing for the right person, but it definitely requires an honest look in the mirror to know if it's truly a fit for you. Okay, so we looked at all these different pieces of the MSL role: the science, the relationships, the strategy, and the day-to-day operations. Now, let's put it all together and see how they really form one single dynamic career. It all starts with the science, the credibility, the value. Everything an MSL brings to the table is built on this absolute foundation of deep scientific and clinical expertise. Without that, none of the other pieces even matter. But that scientific knowledge, it's only as good as the relationships you use to share it. You see, data needs context, and that context comes from the authentic human connection that an MSL builds with these experts out in the field. And it's right there inside those trusted conversations that you find the strategic gold. That's where you generate those critical field insights, the real-world intelligence that can literally shape and redirect an entire company's medical strategy. And finally, none of this incredible work happens without being propped up by rigorous operational discipline. The meticulous management of all the logistics, the compliance, the documentation, that's the unseen engine that makes everything else run. And that really brings us to our final thought. The MSL career is this remarkable integration of all these different domains. It's a really unique blend of deep science, constant travel, strategic relationship building, and disciplined administration. So the question to leave you with is this: is that the right path for you?